Hey guys, welcome back to Breaking the Barrier. I'm your host, Rebel Sjeklocha, and today I am joined by a three-time National Finals Breakaway Roping qualifier, Taylor Munsell. Taylor, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
At the time of our conversation, you are in the thick of Cowboy Christmas. Today you get a day off, which is nice, but you're in the middle of your busy season. Talk about what the last week or so has been like for you. Been pretty big.
Yeah, the last week's been huge for me. Luckily, pretty easy week for me as well. I drove out to Prineville and then we went to Santa Ynez and I had a couple days off in California before going to Reno. And then during Reno, I roped on the 25th and then flew to Greeley, roped at Greeley, slack, and then flew back for the short round. And then, yeah, I've had a couple days off before my Cowboy Christmas gets real crazy.
Awesome. Well, after your big win in Reno, you're currently sitting second in the world standings headed into your big Cowboy Christmas run. What was that win like, and what did that mean to you?
Yeah, oh, that was awesome. It was a super special win. I've loved Reno since the first time I went. When I went to the BFI, the first time I was out there, I won the BFI, and it's just held a place in my heart since then. And once they added us to the rodeo, that was so exciting. It was one of the first big pro rodeos I went to, maybe the first or second big pro rodeo I ever got to go to. And I've made the short round every year, and I had a chance to win it one year and curl the leg the second year I was there. So, I'd been looking for it since then. I got things together the third year last year and didn't draw super great and won a lot of money out of there. And then this year, I knew I was just going to go at every calf and give myself a chance to win it.
Well, congratulations. That's super exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
So, you've had a very successful year so far, no doubt. We've talked about the last week or so, but the season started really last fall. So, what has that whole process been like for you, and how have things been going?
Yeah, it's been a great year for me. I've never had a very good winter, and this year I had a really, really good winter. Um, I didn't win any rodeos, but I placed at a whole lot of them, made the finals at everywhere but Fort Worth, which is huge. Those rodeos all pay so good in the winter that you kind of need to do good at them, and I've never done that, and this year I finally got it done, which set me up really well for the rest of the year, and I'm super excited. The summer's kind of always where I excel, usually starting at Reno. So this is looking like a great year for me, and I'm super excited to keep it rolling.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I want to rewind quite a bit and kind of give people a glimpse into who you are outside of the arena and how you kind of got your start. It's pretty easy to look at standings and all the accolades that are happening right now, but I want to give people a glimpse into kind of where you got started. So, how did you get started, and where did your love for roping come from?
I grew up, my mom's side of the family ranched and my dad's side rodeoed, and so it was just always something we did. We mostly team roped. I just kind of breakawayed because I was handy enough with a rope to do it, and we had a nice horse when I was growing up, and I didn't really have a true love for breakaway because there was really nowhere to go in it, so I was going to be a team roper. And then I more so always loved the horses and that side of it. I ran barrels and did everything growing up, and then when I right before I graduated high school, I had a reconstructive shoulder surgery on my right shoulder, and in the rehab process, they let me come back to roping calves faster than head and steers just because of the type of swing and the way you swung your rope. And then also when I was recruited at Northwestern, Stockton told me he was recruiting me for to be a breakaway roper. He didn't need an all-girl team roper. He said I could team rope if I wanted, but he needed me to be a breakaway roper, and then that's kind of where things pivoted for me.
For sure. Well, I can imagine going through an injury like that, or having shoulder surgery after having such a big team roping focus had to be a transition of some sort. I mean, I know you're handy enough to do that, but regardless, like that was what your focus was on for a long time. What was making that shift like for you?
It was super difficult. I knew I wanted to rope, and I knew Stockton was super good about like he said, he was going to keep my scholarship and stuff. I was supposed to be off for a year and not rope, but that didn't work for me. And luckily, my physical therapist understood that and helped me get back as fast as I could. I came back too fast and kind of went at it too hard because I wanted to get the breakaway figured out, which lengthened my recovery on my shoulder. Um, so we battled that off and on, learning how to take care of my shoulder and what worked and what didn't work. Um, because with the surgery I had, it's going to be a lifelong deal of taking care of it so that it stays good enough to use. And it took me a while to figure that out, and we got it figured out. And then once I got that figured out, it was pretty smooth sailing. Uh, Monster, the little bay horse I have that everybody knows me by, that's kind of my freshman year is when he came around, and I decided he was going to be the one I needed to rodeo to breakaway on. And he was so much better than anything I'd ever rode. I broke the barrier at every rodeo I rode him at until the last college rodeo of the year. And then I won the short round and placed good at that college rodeo. And then it was there. I knew I had the horse and I knew I had the talent, and then I just had to master it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Monster is definitely has his time in the spotlight, so we would be remiss if we didn't talk about him. Tell the story behind Monster. That's a pretty neat thing.
Yeah, oh, Monster's super special. That was kind of like a God wink thing. My dad was a horse trader and an auctioneer, and we were at a horse sale, and I was riding horses through the ring. My dad was auctioneering, and an old man led Monster through the ring, and he was super skinny. He was 2 years old, guaranteed him broke, but they didn't ride him because he was so poor, and nobody bid on him. And so he went out back, and my dad just couldn't stand it because he liked his papers. So he went out back and found the guy and gave him $250 for Monster, and then or $200 for Monster. And then he was like, "You're gonna want this horse." And I was like, looked at him one time, and I was like, "No, absolutely not. I don't want him." And then we took him home, and we had to get him fat before we could do anything with him. So we started feeding him. Well, he was stunted, so he was tiny. And my dad was like, "You're the only one small enough to ride him. You need to get on him and try him." And I was only 13 at the time, and I got on him, and the only thing he would do was lope in a straight line and stop. And I just fell in love with him, and I traded my dad a whole bunch of miniature pony riding on Monster, and that's how I ended up with Monster. And then he took us through heck. He tried to die multiple times, cut himself up. He just was always on the injured list, and I finally just started riding him when he was probably like 7. I finally just started riding him with he had his throat, his chest, everything laid open where he had ran through a 6-wire fence, but he had been turned out recovering from almost cutting his foot off when he did it. And I was like, I'm just gonna start riding him or he's gonna kill himself. So we just rode him without a breast collar or tie down and started using him, and he he just always wanted to do good. He just always wanted to he'd do whatever. He never cheated me or messed me up. He was a blessing, a true blessing to me.
Yeah. So at this point, you're mounted well. You've made the transition to breakaway roping. At what point did you decide, this is something I want to do after college and take a little bit more seriously?
Um, it was a pretty easy decision for me, really. I was gonna I college rodeoed, and that was, I loved the school that I did. I loved being in Alva, and I loved college rodeo. And I student coached with Stockton, and then I won the college finals. And the school asked me to stay another year and get my master's in grad assistant coach. So that gave me another year to college rodeo, and I loved coaching and stuff. And that first year, they started adding breakaway to the pro rodeos. They had that NFBR in Texas. I actually ended up not being that far out of making it, but I didn't know they were going to have a finals, and I was pretty sour when I found out about it. So right then, I knew what I was doing, and as long as I can afford to do it, and I feel like I'm talented enough to hang with the girls, I'm gonna. I, I just knew I was gonna do it, and I was gonna try it. The first year was super hard to figure it all out because we were so new, and basically everybody was a rookie.
Hmm.
But yeah, I love it now, and there's nothing I'd rather do.
So being so immersed in a breakaway from the very beginning, really, from the pro rodeo side of things, what have been the biggest changes you've seen happen since 2020?
Oh, that would definitely have to be the horsepower and the talent. There's so much crazy good horsepower now, and there's so many girls that normally like girls that quit when they were done with high school or college and didn't come back to it, or that are coming back to it now. And then there's young girls that normally would have quit by now that are have continued it. There's a reason to continue and try to be as good as you can be because you're not just done with it in high school or college. You can make a living after that doing it with a rope. And so the talent, not just people that have the talent, but the work ethic that they're putting into it is crazy, and it's so cool to watch. One of the things I say a lot is the first year we rodeoed, as far as like working out, I didn't know hardly anybody that really worked out, and then now if you go down the road and talk to girls, there's a ton of girls that have workout programs and trainers and all kinds of stuff, and that's just like one area where people are trying to excel themselves to do good in this event.
Absolutely. Well, on that vein, I'm sure that, the lasting effects of your shoulder injury are something that you have to take into consideration when you're preparing and when you're competing and all those things. How do you keep your shoulder at maybe not 100%, but at least workable?
Yeah, that was one thing when I had surgery, they told me I would never be 100%. And one of the best things I ever got told was I hauled to amateur rodeo shortly after when I started rodeoing again. And the person I hauled with, he was like, they tell you that you'll never be 100% again, but they're talking about the average human being, not you. And so that really impacted me and helped me to like kind of, I guess, not accept where it was going to be and that this wasn't going to actually affect me in the long run. I have the shoulder surgery to thank for me becoming a breakaway roper, honestly, and directing me in the path and getting me so much into the health and wellness side of things and taking care of my body that I kind of got a jump start on it.
Mhm.
Um, I have a trainer, um, Natasha with Championship Living, and then I have wellness, doing chiropractic and muscle to mind connection stuff. I have a PT Hunter that's been with me since I had surgery and continues to help me with workouts and stuff, warm ups, and working on me when I'm home. On top of, I work out as much as I can while I'm on the road. And then before every run, I have a set warm up routine that, with all the people that have helped me, we've helped to develop and get it in a way that really helps me to perform at my best with warming up, starting out on the dummy, and then warming up with a band before I rope and getting stretched out and loosened up. There's a lot of work put into it, but I'm glad I learned all this stuff at a young age so that I can take care of myself through my whole career versus at the end, towards the end of my career, getting hurt and then having to figure it out.
For sure. Uh, Talk more about the mind to muscle connection training. That's very interesting to me.
So basically, like when you get hurt, you hurt a specific injury muscle area, then that muscle will shut down, and then the other muscles will overwork to try to protect it. And then when that happens, it starts pulling stuff out of place, and then causing your body's trying to protect itself, but it's causing more issues in the long run, and that muscle deteriorates over time that's not working. So Cassie, on a muscle level, tries to get all those muscles woke back up and firing and all working together. That way, when she adjusts you, all the muscles are going to be holding that joint in place versus some of them pulling harder than the others and pulling stuff out of place. And I've had crazy good experiences doing this. We just started it this year. I reached out to Cassie and she's helped me tremendously throughout the winter. I think she was working on me like every 3 days this winter, just chasing pain around. It would move when she'd get one thing working right, something else would be bothering me, and we just chased it around and got everything lined out. And it's been so crazy how well it works. Honestly, the first couple appointments, I was maybe like, this doesn't even, my brain doesn't comprehend how this works. And then now it's crazy how well it works and how much, once she got me all lined out, how much longer I could go on the road without being in pain and having issues.
Yeah, very cool. Well, it's been really fun to watch just the transition the last few years, obviously in breakaway roping, but just kind of rodeo as a whole. People starting to take, the wellness piece seriously and start to treat their bodies like athletes. That's been really fun to watch. Um,
Yeah, it's been super cool. I'm super excited to see it too.
yeah,
Rodeo athletes treating themselves like they are professional athletes.
Yeah. Well, I want you to elaborate on something you said earlier, where you said it was pretty much everyone's rookie year in the breakaway once things started to get rolling. What do you mean by that? And what kind of catching up did breakaway ropers have to do to contestants in other events?
Well, just like entering the rodeos, none of us knew how to enter. Like we had there was girls' husbands and boyfriends that obviously had pro rodeo trying to help us, but we were entering on a WPRA deal, which is a little different than the PRCA. We have different rules. There's still stuff I'm trying to figure out where ours is different than the guys on some stuff, like getting turned out or drawn out of rodeos when you're make a finals over another rodeo and stuff. And then also like just not knowing the rodeos, like not knowing the best route to get to the rodeo, not knowing how to enter the rodeo, which ones you could make in the same day, not knowing the stock contractors or the cattle anywhere you go, not knowing the secretaries or their phone numbers, not knowing the setup. Like the guys kind of get it down to where they know what horse to send where and can kind of like master that and ride the best horse at each place. And the first year I went, I had two horses and I felt like I rode the wrong horse at every rodeo and I would have rather had the other one, but we just didn't know.
Hmm.
And I feel like now it's crazy how much easier rodeoing is on me this year than that first year.
So we talked a little bit about Monster, but you've also had some other pretty special horses, Ray and Colonel, and whatever other ones you have in your lineup right now. Talk about the horses that you're taking on the road this year and what their stories are.
Yes, Ray's the one I rode at Reno. He's the one that's out and gonna do the majority of the hauling over Cowboy Christmas. He's one my family raised. He was the last one my grandparents raised out of their stuff down on the ranch, and he I took him to they let me take him to college with me, and he honestly wasn't good at anything, so he kind of did everything. And then he got pretty decent at all of it, so he just continued to do all of it. And then when I started breakaway roping and I needed him to be a breakaway horse, that's whenever he became a straight up breakaway horse. He's so good. He's so easy to catch on and score on and just win on. He doesn't overwork or get in your way. He's not the flashiest horse going, but he may be one of the easiest ones to win on. Um, he's won majority, almost the most money of my three, if not every year, almost every year, towards me making the NFR. And he's just kind of the grunt horse. He doesn't get a lot of glory, but he's always there doing the work.
Nice and steady.
Yeah,
So,
he's always the same.
yeah. So you're in the thick of things right now. Obviously, you have your eyes on qualifying for the National Finals Breakaway Roping again. You've been there 3 times. What are the biggest takeaways that you've gotten from your first 3 trips to Vegas?
Um, Honestly, it's just so fun to go to Vegas, and then, like I always say, that the job was the whole year of rodeoing, and then when you get to Vegas, it's so fun to get to celebrate with your family and friends and sponsors that have supported you and helped you so much because it takes so much to get there, and then I don't want it to be just, like, me winning out there, like, it's all the people that helped me get there, and I'm always so thankful that they all get to come out and support and be there with me, and even the ones at home that are just watching and supporting, that's, like, the most special part of it all is, all the people. It's so cool to see and how many people back you and support you and would do so much for you to get there.
Absolutely. Well, in 2022, excuse me, you were the reserve world champion in the breakaway. What was that experience like, and how did that year go for you?
Um, that year, honest to gosh, I know it's, like, kinda weird to say because I've made the finals and I've had a good year every year. I don't feel like I've had a good year yet where I've done as good as I felt like I even remotely could have. Um, that year that I won reserve, I had an outstanding finals. I got a that was the year I finally got to ride Monster at the NFR, and he was just lock and key on that setup and on those kevs. He was so outstanding. Um, and I didn't think I had a chance of winning the world, so I was just having fun and going at him. And I didn't want to let off because I know how I rope when I safety up. In Monster, I know how good he scores and can hit the line. So we just kept doing our thing, and as many times as they'd let us place in the rounds, we did. Um, That was a super cool experience, though, getting to win reserve, especially behind one of my great friends, Martha, and getting to watch her get the deal sealed on a world title. It was a lot of fun, and it was a true dream come true, and I'm
Mm.
super excited to get a run at an actual world title this year.
Yeah, awesome. Well, the setup is so different with, so many rounds back to back to back. Whereas, in all the other events, you kind of have either an entire day or 24 hours to either beat yourself up or to celebrate a big win. But you
Yeah.
kind of have to be locked and loaded in little to no time at all. What is the experience like having to do so many rounds back to back to back?
Um, for me, it's never been bad because I mean, I've always had a good finals. I will say you don't get no time to get upset really at all. Like you got a couple seconds to be upset and they're rolling into the next round and you got to be worried about finding your draw, finding videos of your calf, knowing when you're up. As far as like even the go rounds and the averages, like generally when we rope, like I'd say last year I had no idea what was going on in the average or the go rounds until like the first day was over or like they told you you won a round. Like it's you ride in the box, you have no idea what you need to be, and you just try to make the best run you can on that calf and then wait and hopefully you hear before the round's over. But generally it's so fast you have no idea what's going on. Um so it's very you just kind of got to keep your head down and keep grinding and trying to make the best runs on the calves you draw and not worrying about anything else. You can't really worry about what people ahead of you in the world are doing. Can't worry about what's going on in the average because you got to worry about the calf you're running next, the next calf. And if you get worried about that other stuff, I feel like that's where people have issues with the next calf.
For sure. Well, you mentioned that this is kind of, new for everybody and a general figuring out process, figuring out setups and horses and the whole rigmarole, where everyone's in the same boat, essentially. What has the camaraderie been like across, the entire population of breakaway ropers?
I think it's been good. I mean, I've never been turned down. I mean, I jump in a lot of rigs, get rides places. I've borrowed a lot of horses and jump rode a lot of horses. I've asked for videos and everything, and I don't feel like I've ever had any issues with any one breakaway roper of getting any of those things done. Like I feel like we're all pretty good to helping each other. Like everybody may not be best friends, but nobody is in any case when you have
Mhm.
200 people together. But I think that everybody, I don't want to beat anybody because they had a bad day. I want to beat you at your best. So I'm going to do anything I can to help you be your best. And I feel like that's kind of how the whole breakaway scene looks. It's no fun beating somebody when they're having a bad day or can't catch a ride to the rodeo. It's not
Hmm.
fun to win the rodeo if somebody couldn't get there
Yeah, for
type of
sure.
deal. So
So it takes a lot of competitive edge and fire to be a professional athlete in any sport. Where do you think your competitive edge comes from?
um I was raised pretty competitively, kind of in a like, if you want to eat like a good dinner tonight, you better win money type of deal. So that's still kind of how I compete. I didn't ever really have a lot of money. We never had a lot of money growing up, so it was kind of always like if you wanted to keep entering, you had to win. We weren't just doing this for fun, and I think that really helped my competitiveness. And then uh, my big deal is like having a why for why I do it. I have my reasoning for rodeoing and winning is not myself, it's a bigger than myself. And that really helps me stay competitive and putting in the work to do what I do because I want to do more than just rodeo and just win. There's a bigger goal out there.
Yeah. So on your bad days or on your off days, whether you're in any sort of sport, you're going to have them, but especially in rodeo, it kind of has a special way of humbling us. How do you bounce back from those things and how do you realign with that bigger purpose?
Um, it's tough. I will say it's real tough. I have a pretty good mindset on it. Something that I always kind of tell myself was I think it was like Derek Jeter and they were talking about it at bats and they were talking about if he struck out like so many times in a row, what his mindset was to go to the plate again. And it was like, well, if I strike out 100 times in a row, I know my odds of hitting it home run the next swing are like so great. And so that's kind of my mindset with rodeos. Like if I get in a slump and I can't win money, like every rodeo run I make that I don't win money, I'm one run closer to winning a rodeo
Hmm.
and it like makes me super excited to run another calf. sometimes I get more frustrated with the fact I have to wait a few days to run another calf than the fact of the run actually not going good because I know it's coming and I just have to get to it.
Absolutely. Well, successful people surround themselves with other successful people in sort of an iron sharpens iron mentality. Who have been some of your greatest mentors or friends that have pushed you to be better?
Oh, my hauling partner, Sam, we've hauled together for 4 years and she's been outstanding. We're both always so happy for each other when we win in like a way that we both feel good about. And like we have a deal where whoever wins the most money that week has to buy dinner the next night. And it's just fun and to haul with somebody that's just as excited for you to win as you are and vice versa. Um, and then, there's a ton of people just in the rodeo community outside of even breakaway ropers, but I'd have to say Jackie, she was one that took me in before I was somebody when I was broke, flew to California, had nowhere to stay, no ride to the airport, not enough money to get to the airport. She didn't even know who I was, had hardly ever met me, and just took me in, gave me a ride to the airport, let me stay in her hotel, and then let me basically live at her house every winter during the winter rodeos and never ask a question or like any reasoning behind any of it. She just took me in and just is a good human that did that. And her family's so great to me still. There's a ton more I could talk about that I think are, I've learned something from so many different people that I couldn't even begin to cover the whole list.
Well, breakaway roping is only continuing to grow, and committees and fans are all seeing that just by the number of entries and also the number of fans that come just to watch the breakaway roping is super cool. What are your hopes for the sport in the next 3 to 5 years?
Um, I have had this question asked so many times the last couple days, and I would like to say we're going to be at the Thomas Mack roping for equal money, the whole thing, and all 10 rounds. But I don't know if that's completely realistic yet. I would, I know that the breakaway is going to continue to grow. The fan base is so huge. The fan base is so outstanding. The girls, the numbers are there and they just continue to grow. The money keeps growing in the junior stuff, the college stuff, the pro stuff, the amateur. There's so many different levels now where people can kind of pick where they want to go instead of just being us all being amateur ropers. Now we're pro rodeoing, and that's a whole nother level for girls to go amateur rodeo in the summer and circuit rodeo without having to rope against us. It's going to continue to grow, and the money's going to get better. The just the breakaway in general is going to continue to get better, and I'm super excited and hopeful that one day I'll get a row and one all 10 rounds, 10 days in a row versus in 2 days soon before my career ends. But I'm just excited for where it's gone already, and I'm going to keep taking advantage of what I have going right now this year.
For sure. Well, in the past, if you were a young girl at a rodeo and you wanted someone to look up to, you really only had the barrel racers. Not that that's a bad thing by any stretch, but now girls are kind of getting permission to shoot for that, or to have a goal beyond, like you said earlier, junior rodeo, high school, college, what have you. What advice would you give a younger girl at any of those stages for how to prepare themselves for the professional level?
Oh man, it honestly starts with your mindset. If you can get your mindset lined out before you start trying to pro rodeo, you'll go so much further. Um, because once you get out on the road, you don't get a practice. Like when we're pro rodeoing, we don't get a practice. We don't get a tune on our horses. So when you leave home, you better have full confidence in that horse and yourself to go make, multiple rodeo runs, competitive rodeo runs with no practice and no time to be upset or mad. If you can figure out how to do that before you go rodeo, you'll be so much further ahead. That's easier said than done, but also just know that every rodeo is a learning point. You can learn something from every run, good or bad. So make sure you're taking something from every run. And then after your run, if it goes bad, you watch that video and you critique it, delete it, and don't ever think about it again. Like you cannot fix something in a rodeo run. So every rodeo run, you're just trying to win. And then when you get home, that's when you go to try to fix the mistakes you're consistently making. But you can't be thinking about that stuff while you're rodeoing or making runs.
Kind of rewinding to my previous question, what changes do you think will have to be implemented, or what things are going to have to happen to put breakaway roping on equal footing with the other events?
Um, honestly, I think every time I've kind of talked to anybody or asked questions, I kind of get like a runaround where it's like everybody's just kind of pawning it off on somebody else and avoiding the question. I don't know if anybody truly, truly, truly knows, or if it's just going to be one person that's higher up that I don't even know about that's going to finally be like, I want to see it. There's enough people that want to see it. We need to do it. I really honestly don't know. Like I said, I've tried to get definite answers on stuff, and it's just kind of impossible. One person says y'all got to do this, one person says y'all got to do this, and one person says y'all got to do this, but then I don't feel like any of it is accurate, or somebody's like, no, that's not true. They never said that. Nobody ever agreed to that. So I really don't know. I feel like it's just a whole bunch of hearsay, hearsay, people saying whatever they can to get out of the question because it makes them uncomfortable. But we got to keep, I mean, the pressure's got to keep being put on them and making them uncomfortable until somebody finally decides that um, we're worth being put in there. And we all know it, and the fans
Mhm.
know it. Now we're just kind of waiting, biding our time.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, the sport is very lucky to have people like you kind of pushing for this, whether silently or not. Just the fact that you're competing at a high level is paving the way for others. So, thank you for being that person for all the girls to come.
Oh man, there's girls that do so much more than me, but I just have to look at it in a way where it's not maddening to myself or my mindset while I'm rodeoing because I'm still
Hmm.
very blessed to be doing this and so thankful for it and thankful for everything we get and all the stuff I get to do outside of pro rodeo because of pro rodeo. You know, it's given me such a big platform. I get to reach so many more people now. That's honestly what I've always wanted to do, and that's such a cool part about it is getting to meet all the fans and the little girls and do the clinics with people that look up to me, and it's so fun.
Yeah.
I truly love that part of it.
What would you say is the most rewarding part of where you're at now in your career?
That, like my whole goal was I always wanted to be good enough to be impactful, with my
Mhm.
story and like my come up and the stuff I've went through. And I feel like I've finally gotten there where I can do that. Like at my clinics, I get such a good group of kids. I get to go speak to kids at camps. I get to reach so many people, and that's what I always dreamed of doing. I didn't feel like I ever really got that when I was a kid, that person that was kind of like, this is my come up. And I want to reach as many kids and even adults as I can, and help them on their journey in this event because it's such a cool thing. Um, the rodeo and in general and the camaraderie of everybody, it's such a unique grouping of people,
Yeah,
atmosphere. It's so awesome. All of it, all the way up. I've done all of it, the junior rodeos, all the way to pro rodeo and everything in between. I loved every level of it.
for sure. Well, one of my favorite things to ask guests on the podcast is a piece of advice that they'd like to pass along. This can be something of your own that you'd like to pass along, or maybe something that someone told you way back when that you think others should know.
The biggest thing with the piece of advice is that I have is like know your worth, because you're worth way more than your rodeo career or the run you just made. And that's something that before all my runs I always try to pray for, is that nobody leaves that rodeo feeling defeated in themselves or the run they made, because I've been there, we've all been there, but it kind of disappoints me when that happens, that I feel defeated by that one 3-second run I just did bad instead of the whole rest of the day and all the things I did in that day. So I try to remind myself of that constantly, that where you're worth so much more, and don't forget that or lose sight of that while you're rodeoing, especially when you're in a slump or something. It's so easy to happen. Um, but it's something I have to consistently remind myself of every rodeo so that right after the run, when I feel that coming on, I shut it down. I get rid of it. That's not what we're doing. That's not what we're here for. Winning that one rodeo is not the main goal. It was just a small step along the goals, and I'll rechange my goals and I'll aim to win that rodeo next year. You
For
know,
sure.
you can always rearrange those goals. They aren't set in stone.
Yeah. So when it comes to goal setting, how do you go about that process? And what are some of your goals for the rest of the year?
I don't have I'm not a big goal setter. I don't do a New Year's resolution because I think anything you want to start, there's no reason you shouldn't start that day. Um, I don't set a lot of goals because any goals I have, I feel like they should be big enough to me that I don't need to write them down to remember them or nothing. So like making the NFR, that's just a given. That's something I plan on doing every year. I feel like if I write them down, I honestly just forget about them or black out. Like I don't ever even look at them. My goals are generally like just try to be better with my health, better with my mindset, better with my Christianity, and like finding peace in that and knowing my worth and trying to spread that message as much as I can, um, and glorifying the Lord in everything I do, win or lose. And then I really, like I said, I really want to reach the kids and everybody that's wanting to get into this. So I've tried to really make sure to schedule like clinics. Like sometimes this year I tried to do better this winter of like we get in a rat race where we feel like we have to enter every rodeo and we really don't. So this winter I tried to do better about like not entering rodeos so that I could do clinics and host clinics. And it was so much I had so much more fun this winter, and that maybe is why my winter went so much better because I wasn't so stressed about getting to every rodeo.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think there's a lot of wisdom to take from that. Well, Taylor, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like people to know?
I feel like we've covered a whole lot of it.
I know you.
You gotta highlight on a lot of my points that I really wanted to talk about.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for making the time to do this. If you're not watching the recording on YouTube, you're missing out. We are taking advantage of Taylor's day off in the midst of all the Cowboy Christmas craziness, but we really appreciate you taking the time to share your story today.
Yeah, thank you.